Right now, on every continent except Antarctica, someone is playing a game invented by accident. It has no owner, no single inventor, and no reason it should have worked. The rules were written by men arguing about violence, not fun, and somehow they built the closest thing to a universal language humans have ever created.
4 billion people can recognize this game in half a second. Almost none of them know how close it came to looking completely different.
This is the story of how a fistfight between English gentlemen accidentally engineered the most perfect sport on Earth.
A perfect sport needs almost nothing to play. No field markings, no referee, not even shoes. Just one ball and enough space to run.
It needs rules simple enough to explain in under 30 seconds. Kick the ball into the net, don't use your hands. It needs enough randomness that the underdog can win on any given day. Unlike basketball or American football, a single goal can flip an entire match.
And it needs to look good doing all of that. Continuous motion, no stoppages, built for the eye. No huddles, no timeouts, just flow.
Today we call this game association football. Nearly every country on Earth plays some version of it.
But 200 years ago, nothing about this game looked inevitable.
Before rules, before referees, there was only folk football, and it looked nothing like a sport. Entire villages would battle for a pig's bladder, dragging it through streets, rivers, and graveyards. Deaths were common. Broken bones were basically the price of admission. For centuries, kings tried to ban it outright. Edward II called it a public nuisance.
It never worked. The game kept surviving generation after generation because something about it refused to die.
The turning point wasn't a king, it was a room full of British schoolboys 300 years later. Every elite school had its own version of football, and none of them agreed on anything. Eton played with almost no handling. Rugby school let players pick the ball up and run. At Harrow, they used a squarish ball. At Winchester, entirely different boundary rules. When these students reached university, chaos followed. Nobody could agree on which football to play. In 1848, Cambridge tried to fix it. They locked several old boys from different schools in a room for hours. What came out was the Cambridge Rules, the first real attempt at one shared version of football. It didn't fully stick. Clubs kept splintering, each one tweaking the rules to fit local habits. By 1863, England had dozens of football clubs and almost as many rule books. So 11 of those clubs sent representatives to a tavern in London to settle it once and for all. The Freemasons Tavern, October 1863. This meeting would decide the future of the world's most played sport. The biggest fight wasn't about goals or fields. It was about whether players could hack each other's shins. The Blackheath Club wanted to keep hacking, kicking an opponent's legs as a legal tactic. The majority voted it out. Blackheath stormed off and never came back. That single walkout split football history in two. The Leavers eventually built rugby. The Stayers built the game we now call soccer. The remaining clubs published 13 laws. No handling, no hacking. One ball, one goal, one shared game. They called it the Football Association. And for the first time in history, football meant one specific thing. None of these men were trying to invent perfection. They were trying to stop grown men from breaking each other's legs. But the rules they landed on almost by accident solved problems no committee could have planned for. Take the ban on handling. It wasn't chosen for elegance. It was chosen to separate this new game from rugby's chaos. But removing hands did something bigger. It made the sport playable by anyone, regardless of size or strength. A 10-year-old and a grown adult could compete using the same skill, footwork, not brute force. Compare that to a sport like rugby or American football where size differences can decide a game before it starts. Then there's the offside rule, the single most misunderstood law in sports. Without it, players could simply camp beside the opposing goal, waiting for a long pass. The game would collapse into a scoring farm. Offside forced players to build attacks patiently, staying connected as a team instead of camping for cheap goals. It didn't just prevent cheap goals, it created space, tempo, and tactics, an entire language of strategy nobody designed on purpose. Then there's scoring itself. Most matches end with 1, 2, maybe 3 goals total. In a high-scoring game, one great individual moment barely matters. In football, one moment can be the entire match. That scarcity turns every chance into a held breath. 90 minutes of tension for maybe 3 real explosions. No other major sport compresses that much emotional weight into that few scoring events.
And because scoring is rare, upsets are common. A weaker team only needs one good 10 minutes to beat a giant.
That's not a flaw. Statisticians call it low information density, and it's exactly what makes underdog stories passable. Then there's the clock. Football doesn't stop for commercial breaks, coach challenges, or lengthy huddles. The clock runs whether you're ready or not. That relentless motion is part of why it translates so well to any screen, any language, any culture. All you need to understand the entire sport is 30 seconds and a pair of eyes. By the early 1900s, this stripped-down accidental rule set was ready to leave England. It just needed a delivery system. Here's the part most people get wrong. Football didn't spread because it was designed to be the world's game. It spread because British sailors, railway engineers, and factory workers carried it into ports and colonies as a cheap way to kill boredom. The offside rule wasn't designed for tactical beauty either. It was borrowed straight from Cambridge's old anti-violence laws, repurposed almost as an afterthought. Even the handling ban survived by a margin so thin that one different vote in that tavern could have erased it completely. So the perfect sport wasn't perfect by design, it was perfect by elimination. Every version of football that required money, size, or complicated rules eventually lost ground to the simplest one. Every city that adopted a complicated local variant eventually drifted back toward the same 13 laws. This is cultural evolution, not invention. Thousands of small, uncoordinated choices, filtered down to whatever worked best. Rio's favelas didn't need stadiums to fall in love with the game, just a flat patch of dirt and imagination. Lagos didn't need imported equipment. A bundle of plastic bags tied together could become a ball. Kolkata's Maidans, Jakarta's back alleys, and Buenos Aires' street corners all converged on the exact same 13 laws without ever meeting each other. No sport in human history has been reinvented independently in this many places with this little variation. Compare that to cricket, which still needs an entire afternoon and equipment few countries can casually afford. Or baseball, whose gloves, bats, and diamond-shaped fields keep it mostly confined to a handful of nations. Football needed none of that. It only needed the one thing every human has access to: feet. By the 1930s, the first World Cup proved the accident had scaled. 13 nations, one shared game, one shared obsession. Today, that number is 211 national federations, more countries than the United Nations recognizes. The World Cup final now draws a live audience larger than the population of Europe and the Americas combined. No marketing department engineered that. No committee planned for a Victorian anti-violence agreement to become the most watched human event on the planet. It happened because every barrier to entry kept getting removed, one accidental decision at a time. No cost barrier, no size barrier, no equipment barrier, no complexity barrier. What's left is a game so structurally minimal that it can be played in a school gym or a war zone with equal sincerity. Even in active conflict zones, footage keeps surfacing of makeshift matches played between air raid sirens. The game doesn't require peace to exist. It only requires a flat surface and something round enough to kick. That's not poetic license, that's structural design nobody actually designed. Every perfect quality we praise today, the flow, the tension, the accessibility, descended from men trying to stop each other from getting hurt. They weren't chasing elegance. Elegance was just what remained after violence got filtered out. This is the quiet lesson hiding under the world's most popular game. Sometimes the best systems aren't invented, they're survived. Every rule that made the cut did so by outlasting every rule that didn't. And the sport we call the beautiful game is really just the last rule standing after 200 years of accidents. So here's the question worth sitting with. If football had to be invented today with algorithms, focus groups, and global marketing, would anyone actually choose these same 13 laws? Or has the internet made every culture move too fast, too coordinated, too self-aware to ever stumble into something this unplanned again? Somewhere right now, in a street nobody's filming, a game is being played by rules nobody agreed to enforce, and that might be exactly why it still works.